This summer, Tony Mann's fire mitigation company was hired to clear a few beetle-killed trees around this home in the foothills above Fort Collins. But, in a scenario that's all too familiar for Mann, the property owner skipped further mitigation work that would have cleared flammable brush from behind the home. 3 days later, Mann, who lives in a Fort Collins suburb, woke up to learn that the massive High Park wildfire was burning the area. Hundreds of homeowners were being evacuated, including the entire neighborhood where his crews had been working.
We know hundreds of folks up there that you hope are in a good spot.
From his 8 years of doing fire mitigation work along the Front Range, Mann knows from observation that the majority of homeowners have not taken steps to protect their homes from wildfire. A big reason, he says, is cost.
We started solely in mitigation a year after the Hayman fire, and then the last 3 or 4 years have been largely mountain pine beetle. We're finding by and large, when folks are spending a large amount of money on one, we have a hard time getting them to do some of the other details regarding their D-space.
Mann watched with concern over the next week as the High Park fire spread, eventually becoming the most destructive wildfire in Colorado history. But there was nothing he could do for his clients already under evacuation.
We never had a fire moving nearly that rapidly in Larimer County. The old saying, can't wait till the smoke is in the air.
Around Colorado, an increasing number of people are living with the danger of seeing that smoke. An iNews investigation found that in the 10 years since the Hayman fire, the state's biggest wildfire on record, more than 100,000 people moved into Colorado's high-risk red zone, areas where development abuts the state's most flammable forests. In all, about a quarter of Colorado residents are now living in areas prone to explosive wildfires. Ellen Bozell moved to the mountains above Fort Collins 4 years ago, building a house in the same neighborhood where Mann's crew had been working.
Very frightening, very scary.
Has that changed your feeling about where you live?
It has. If our house burns down, we won't rebuild up there.
Please.
Okay, thank you. And it's so dry right now that it's like popcorn up there. I mean, if somebody throws a cigarette out their window, it's going to go up.
Such conditions are becoming all too common in Colorado and across the West. Steve Brown was a rookie volunteer firefighter when the Hayman fire roared through his district near Colorado Springs. Today, he's the fire chief, and that's not the only thing that's changed.
Now our fire season really is almost year-round. Used to be we had to start worrying in March, and then by the monsoons in August, we were done. Not anymore. We're getting wildland fires every month of the year.
But does this mean that the growing number of Colorado residents who choose to live in the forest are doomed to lose their homes to flames? Not according to home ignition expert Jack Cohen of the Fire Sciences Laboratory in Missoula, Montana.
When you look at the census data, you're not seeing anything about the ignition potential of the houses being built. All you're seeing is an increase in the population. So if our houses were of very high ignition resistance, which is readily achievable, what we would be seeing is increased census and not necessarily an increase in the destruction.
Before the Hayman fire started, 10 years ago, Gene and Rip Blaisdell rarely thought about wildfires, despite building their dream home in a forest about 20 miles west of Colorado Springs. That all changed after the Hayman fire burned 138,000 acres and stopped just 2 miles from their home. They realized that their entire subdivision was at high risk for wildfire and set about thinning the forest and creating defensible spaces around the houses.
We have one way in and one way out.
Even so, the Blaisdells are aware that, like the growing number of Colorado residents, wildfire is a risk that they must always be prepared for.
We're in trouble if we don't have good warning.